Eagles. You're listening to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. I'm Sam Romeo, your Monday and Wednesday host. We've got a jam-packed show coming up with some information on Dolly Robertson, recalls how being around music inspired her to become a band director, and Tyshawn Hobson reports on the USM Live Music Club. And don't go anywhere because Dr. Yee will be here later with something you don't want to miss.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mr. Sippy Beverages. Mr. Sippy Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mr. Sippy Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mr. Sippy Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online.
What is dedication?
My daughter is biological and my son is adopted. I love them both so much, from the morning when you wake up to putting them to bed at night and every moment in between. I think a parent's job is to protect our children, but also prepare them for the world so they become good, kind human beings.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Southern Miss Today. Let's start things off with on-campus news. The Southern Miss Symphony is teaming up with jazz pianist Aaron Deal for Stars, a concert blending classical and jazz sounds at Bennett Auditorium. It's one music event you won't want to miss. Southern Miss is celebrating one of its own. Business faculty members, Mac Forsythe, has been honored with SAE Outstanding Chapter Advisor Award. The recognition highlights his leadership, mentorship, and dedication to the students in Sigma Alpha Epsilon. Big news for Southern Miss. Dr. Jose Martinez has been named the university's first ever Mormon STEM endowed professor. The honor recognizes his incredible work and dedication to advancing science and technology education. Southern Miss is adding a new degree in philosophy, religion, and law, giving students a new way to explore the connection between ethics, beliefs, and justice. In Hattiesburg news, authorities in Oak Grove are searching for a 17-year-old Kesley Sims, last seen near Hedgewood and Oak Grove Road on October 31st. If you have any information, contact Lamar County Sheriff's Department. As SNAP benefits face uncertainty, Extra Table is stepping up. The organization Feeds program is doubling its food distribution to make sure families across Mississippi don't go hungry and keep food on the tables for those who need it the most. Several organizations in Hattiesburg spent Halloween weekend helping the homeless community. Volunteers passed out food, warm clothes, and essentials to help those in need as the temperatures start to drop. In Mississippi news, Governor Tate Reeves requested waivers that would prevent SNAP benefits from being used to purchase unhealthy foods across Mississippi. The move aims to promote healthier eating habits across Mississippi and is currently waiting federal approval. Mississippi schools are bringing back the Presidential Fitness Test for students. The program encourages kids to stay active and on track with their physical fitness through a series of exercises. A teenager has confessed to killing his grandmother at a church in Mississippi. Authorities say the tragic incident occurred earlier this week, and the teen is now in custody as the investigation continues. 14 current and former Mississippi law enforcement officers were arrested this week in a major drug trafficking takedown. Authorities say the investigation targeted illegal distribution networks tied to the officers. In national news, job cuts are piling up across the country as several companies announce layoffs, reflecting ongoing changes in the economy and corporate restructuring. J.D. Vance spoke at a Turning Point USA event, calling for reduction in illegal immigration. He argued that the move is necessary to protect American workers and the economy. All right, Golden Eagles, here's your pop culture scoop. A never-before-published Dr. Seuss book is coming out next year, sparking excitement among fans and collectors, eager to see his newly discovered story. And MTV has canceled Ridiculousness. After their recent Paramount layoffs, the fans are remembering the show's funniest moments while wondering what's next for the network. That's your pop culture scoop. Before we wrap things up, here's a little inspiration to take with you today. Love takes off masks that we fear we cannot live without, and know we cannot live within. James Baldwin. And that was our news update for today. You're tuned into Southern Miss Radio, and we'll be back in just a minute with sports and weather, but first, a quick word from our sponsors.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mississippi Beverages. Mississippi Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mississippi Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mississippi Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online. Sponsorship comes from American Graphics. Located at 8 Commercial Warehouse Drive in Hattiesburg, American Graphics provides custom screen printing and embroidery. They can be reached by phone at 601-602-2277, and the website is goamericangraphics.com. American Graphics, printing at its finest.
All right, Golden Eagles, here's your Southern Miss sports scoop. Coming up, Southern Miss football faces Arkansas State on Saturday, November 8th in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Southern Miss women's volleyball dropped a 3-0 match to Texas State on November 1st. Southern Miss women's soccer lost 5-0 to Marshall on October 29th. To keep up with all the Golden Eagles sports activities, head over to southernmiss.com. Golden Eagles, if you're headed out, here's the weather forecast. Today's looking mostly sunny with highs near 67 and lows around 39. Light winds and bright skies. The sun's out, the skies are clear. It's an ideal day to step outside, yes, and maybe even touch some grass. Up next, we have Dolly Robertson recalls how being around music inspired her to become a band director. Check it out.
This is Mississippi Moments, produced by the Center for Oral History and Cultural Heritage at the University of Southern Mississippi and supported by the Mississippi Humanities Council. I'm Bill Ellison. Dolly Robinson grew up in a musical family, 2 blocks from what is now Jackson State University. She recalls how being surrounded by music inspired her to become a band director.
I was born right here in Jackson, Mississippi, about 2 blocks from Jackson State University. We went to public schools, and the public schools were very close around Jackson State University. Jim Hill School was right down the street, Sally Reynolds schools, all of those schools. And as I would pass by, it was in Jackson College. As I passed by Jackson College, I listened to all of the beautiful music that was going on, and they had music on the outside and on the inside and everywhere. So as I grew up, I became very interested in music. I had a family of musicians, and they all played. A lot of them played by ear. And my uncle, of course, played trumpet at the various saloons. So I was sort of surrounded by music. Now, what's strange about it is I was the only one who decided they won't be a musician. All of us had to learn music. My brother, my sister, all of us had to learn. But I wanted to be a musician.
To learn more, subscribe to the Mississippi Moments podcast or visit cohch.org. Mississippi Moments is supported by the Mississippi Humanities Council. The humanities are for everyone.
Coming up, we have a special guest you don't want to miss. That was Dolly Robertson.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mississippi Beverages. Mississippi Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mississippi Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mississippi Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online. Sponsorship comes from Furniture Direct, with locations in Hattiesburg, Laurel, and Columbia. Are you looking for a deal? Lots of styles on a good value? You can find them on Facebook at Furniture Direct Hattiesburg for the latest specials and promotions. Or you can shop anytime at FurnitureDirectNow.com. You can see why Furniture Direct is your furniture destination.
Let's welcome Dr. Yee to the show. Hey, Dr. Yee, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the opportunity to come talk to you today.
Thank you for coming today. Happy to have you. So, let's kick things off. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your role at this evening's Science Cafe event?
Yeah, so I've been a professor here at Southern Miss for 17 years or so, and my lab over in the School of Bees is focused on the ecology of mosquitoes. And in these current times, I think it's all great for us, especially scientists, to kind of do their part to help bring the scientific information that we have out to the public as much as possible. And the Science Cafe over at the Cook Library is a fantastic venue to do that, since it is a public venue meant to be a little bit more relaxed in terms of the atmosphere, less sort of hard data and more just science communication.
What will you be sharing at tonight's Science Cafe event?
So I've got kind of a interesting title, which is why you too can love mosquitoes. I don't actually anticipate a lot of people coming want to learn how to love a mosquito, but really it's meant to educate folks about mosquitoes in general. We all sort of know mosquitoes. We all have had mosquito bites. We know their role in spreading pathogens that cause disease. But the thing I really want to share tonight is the fact that these are animals just like any other animal out there in the world that have their own unique stories. There's some incredibly fascinating mosquitoes out there that we really know nothing about, since we tend not to look at them because they're not, giving us pathogens that make us sick. And just some really amazing stories out there about mosquitoes. And I want to share those with the public.
What sparked your interest in studying mosquitoes?
So my role to ending up on mosquitoes was not linear. I originally started after undergraduate. I started thinking about graduate school and ended off going to a program where predominantly the folks worked on mammals. I was really interested in bats at the time. I really wanted to learn more about the social structures of bats. Many bats have social groups that they live in, much like a lot of other mammals, and I really wanted to investigate that. The problem was, for a master's degree, it's only a couple of years. You really only have maybe 1 or 2 field seasons to collect your data, and under those constraints, it wasn't really easy for me to find a good project that I could do, that I could kind of complete in that amount of time. So after the first semester of really trying to come up with a project, I went to my advisor and asked him, what do you got? And he offered me to work in Puerto Rico on a system that was primarily insect dominated. Mosquitoes were part of that system, but at the time I wasn't really interested in them per se. I was interested in all the insects that existed there. And it wasn't until I really started working on my PhD in Illinois that I really got focused more on mosquitoes. And honestly, since coming to Southern Miss, it has been something that I've much more focused in. I'm more now looking at mosquitoes as their own unique animal, as opposed to them being just something that passes pathogens to people.
Why is your research on mosquitoes so important?
Well, it depends on, how it's used. So we often focus on mosquitoes in our lab by considering what are the forces that have shaped the behavior and the ecology of the larva and the adult mosquitoes. Most work, though, that's done on mosquitoes is done on sort of the pathogen side. So people study, for instance, how successful they are at giving people various, diseases, or what are the sort of interactions between the pathogen and the mosquito. But that sort of ignores the fact that mosquitoes are their own thing besides the pathogens, right? And like I said, there's this incredibly fascinating world out there of mosquito ecology and behavior that we sort of tend to not really think about because it doesn't really involve disease per se.
For anyone listening who might not know, could you explain phenotypes in simple terms?
Sure. So hopefully everybody in high school had some sort of rudimentary biology class. And in biology, you learned phenotype and genotype, right? So genotype is your genes. It's the DNA that makes us up, that's present in all our cells. It's often called the blueprint to make you. That genotype then, when it's expressed in terms of the things it makes, for instance, protein, that manifests as your phenotype. In other words, your hair color, your eye color, how tall you are, whether or not you're lactose intolerant, anything that's an expression of the genotype is the phenotype. And so that's one of the things we've been focusing on more for mosquitoes, is that, we often consider mosquitoes to be this one thing. You're standing outside during the summer in Hattiesburg and a mosquito lands on you. You don't really think of that as being something different than the other mosquitoes. But there's over 3,700 species of them in the world, and they range in sizes, they range in colors, patterns, behavior, what they bite, what they won't bite, what kind of larval environments they use. So there's an incredible diversity. The way I try to explain this to people is, if you think about the diversity of mammals, right? We have whales that are mammals, and we have bats that are mammals, and we have dogs that are mammals, and we have primates that are mammals. And if you look across mammals, you see this wide variety of where they live, what they do, etc. Well, mosquitoes are kind of like that. In other words, they have as much variation as we have, maybe not in the body because they all kind of look the same, but in terms of size, color, behavior, things like that. So phenotype is the thing that we would see and we would often measure to really understand differences among species.
And how would you describe ecology and how it ties into your work?
Sure. So if you think about biology broadly, it's often put into these kind of two buckets. And the one bucket is molecular biology, and that's things like looking at microorganisms or looking at DNA or proteins or how cells are put together and how they function. Those are done at sort of the molecular level. And then the other kind of bucket we often think about is the ecology and organismal, and that's often looked where we look at organisms kind of as a whole and see what kind of makes them tick. That isn't to say those can't overlap. You can definitely be a molecular biologist who studies phenotypes, for instance, and that happens. But ecology is usually the study of sort of the distributions and populations of organisms, sort of what makes organisms tick, why they're in some places, not others, how did they get there, movement patterns, behavior. It's all basically at the scale of the organism and trying to understand really what explains it in nature.
What about mosquito phenotypes and ecology that really fascinates you?
Well, I mean, this is, again, something that we've recently sort of been getting into in the lab. And the thing that fascinates me about it is the fact that it's basically unstudied. Again, most of the work that's been done on mosquitoes, the vast majority of publications every year, scientific publications, do generally involve something related to them as a vector of a pathogen that could make you sick. But very few species actually, out of those 3,700 species, less than 10% of them actually make us sick. The other 90%, so well over 3,000 species, we never see, we never interact with, they don't care about us. But they have unique stories too. And so this idea of looking at mosquitoes not as simply a flying hypodermic needle, something that can just make us sick, but as something that has its own evolutionary history, its own background, its own behavior, its own, ways of doing things in nature. That's sort of the thing that's really fascinating to me.
It's like discovering their own individuality and what it takes to make their lives. And if that makes
Yeah, well, I mean, there's 3,700 species. That means there's probably 3,700 ways to be a mosquito, right? And some of those ways are important to us, but many of them aren't. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't affect the environment, that they don't affect, ecosystems broadly.
What does a typical lab day look like for you?
I mean, it really depends. If it's a fall, spring lab day, it's teaching, it's advising students, it's working with my grad and undergraduate students that are in my lab on their projects. If it's summer, then that means I'm usually off somewhere, collecting mosquitoes, doing field work, experiments. We do a lot of work in Puerto Rico during the summers. So that's really a lot of fun to go there and experience those tropical environments where they have much different types of mosquitoes than we do. And then it's just a lot of working with collaborators from around the U.S. and around the world on various types of projects. So it really depends, and I'm sure any biology or any really science professor will tell you the same thing. It's a mix of lots of science and then with periods of lots of non-science.
How do you go about conducting this kind of research?
Again, it really depends on what we're doing. So, for instance, the work that we do in the forests in Puerto Rico, that work, a lot of it is just finding mosquitoes. So we have these things called aspirators, which look like a big vacuum cleaner, and we go around the environment sucking up the mosquitoes because mosquitoes are very small, we're very large, it's hard to find them individually, and it's harder to learn about them individually. So what we often do is we collect a lot of them in nature. And from those, we can, for instance, analyze what kind of blood meal they have. So we can take the DNA out of their blood and figure out what did it just feed on, right? And we can get that down to species, and that can tell us how variable species are and the types of hosts they look for. I have a student right now working on sugar feeding because even though we know mosquitoes take blood, it's only the females. and they only need it for making their eggs. Their nutrition actually comes from feeding on sugar, just like a lot of other insects. So they visit flowers too. So we learn about patterns in flower feeding. We can do caged experiments where we take adults from the wild. We do larval collections, which the larvae are aquatic. So we're looking in all various types of places where there could be standing water, collecting the larvae and learning about those. I mean, it really runs the gamut of both observational and experimental work that we do in the field.
What's your favorite part of researching mosquitoes?
I mean, like any science, it's the fact that you're probably learning something about these organisms that no one else knows. I had an undergraduate just recently graduate, and she did her honors thesis on discovering something brand new about mosquitoes, something that no one in the world ever knew. And it basically relates to how they lay their eggs in a way that was totally unexpected. So these kinds of discoveries keep you going. These kinds of discoveries keep you sort of in the game and doing the hard work that you can hopefully make these kinds of new discoveries. And again, there's literally countless discoveries to still be made, not only about mosquitoes, but about life in general.
Is there any other insects that you're interested in researching other than mosquitoes?
So presently, we're mainly focusing on mosquitoes, but back in my past, before I accepted the position here at Southern Miss, I was a postdoc at the University of Calgary in Alberta, Canada. And there I actually worked on a group of insects called predaceous diving beetles. So there are more beetles than anything else in the world, over 300,000 species of animals or of beetles out there. There's one particular family, couple thousand species, and unlike most beetles, they're aquatic, so both the adults and the juveniles live in the water, and as the name suggests, they're all predatory, so they eat a wide variety of things. And so I did a lot of that kind of work. I've had a few students work on predaceous diving beetles here in Mississippi as well. They're a really fascinating group. Again, like most insects, we just don't know much because there are so many of them out there, and there's only so many of us to study them.
Overall, what kind of role do mosquitoes play in the environment?
That's a great question because we don't know. So again, we tend to study them. We put most of our effort, most of our money, most of our time into learning about them as vectors of these pathogens that make us sick, or in controlling them. And those are both very good things to do because we don't want to die from these diseases. We don't want to get sick. But the problem is that since our focus has been just on that, we sort of have missed learning about what they do naturally in the environment. So there's often a retort from people that I talk to about, can't we just get rid of them all, right? My first answer is always good luck. They have been here before us. They'll be here probably long after us. But there are so many species. There's over 60 species in Mississippi, more than 170 in the continental U.S., and then more than 3,000, 3,700 worldwide. That our ability to get rid of them, I mean, it would take probably more money than the U.S. has to eliminate them. And the question is, what would that effect be on the environment? And the answer is, we don't know. We know that they visit flowers, so they probably have some sort of role in pollination. How much? We don't know. The larvae are found in aquatic systems where they're eaten by a variety of things. They're eaten by fish, they're eaten by dragonflies, they're eaten by other insects. How important are they as food sources? We don't know. Adults are eaten by spiders, by birds, by other flying insects like dragonflies. How important are they for those organisms? We don't know. So there's all these things about mosquitoes that we don't know. And the thing is that there are probably things that mosquitoes do in the environment that we have no sense of because we've never investigated. So there could be things out there that we would be very shocked to find out mosquitoes are doing this. And we're not going to know until we study them.
I love that. I never thought about the idea of you literally don't know until you take the idea of going through it and learning. Have you run into any challenges during your research?
I mean, our challenge is always about enough time and money to do the things we'd love to do. research grants, they are often difficult to write. They have very low amounts of funding rates, and so just getting money to do the things you'd like to do is always problematic. And then there's always too many questions and never enough time, never enough students, never enough opportunities to do the things you'd like to do. So those are where most of the challenges come. But when we do have those opportunities, I say that we're pretty happy doing the stuff that we do and the things that we've learned over the years here.
And finally, is there anything else you'd like to share about your research or tonight's event?
Well, I would encourage everyone to come out tonight. It's going to be sort of a very casual atmosphere. I promise not a lot of data. Lots of really amazing, cool pictures, a lot of really amazing, cool stories. Some of the things you'll see are yellow mosquitoes, blue mosquitoes, green mosquitoes, mosquitoes that have paddles on their legs that make them look like peacocks because they display to each other. The males display to the females. Mosquitoes that live in pretty much any kind of water you can think of. Mosquitoes that live with crabs in their holes. Mosquitoes that feed on manatees and fish. I mean, there's so many amazing stories out there. That it would be great if people were interested in spending an hour tonight over in the Cook Library learning about that and becoming more curious about the natural world, not just in terms of mosquitoes, but everything that's out there to explore.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yee, for joining us today and sharing your voice with our Eagles. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Of course. Coming up, we have a news wrap from Tyshawn Hops, reports on the USM Live Music Club. Coming on here today. I really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing all this information about biology. I wish I knew more to have a better conversation with you.
Sponsorship comes from Southern Beverage, your local Michelob Ultra distributor. Michelob Ultra has significantly fewer carbs and calories per serving if you are watching those in your diet. You can reach Southern Beverage by phone at 601-268-9111, or you can find them on the internet at southernbeverage.com. Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri, and Southern Beverage ask you to please drink responsibly.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate cab rides to the Asian community.
There is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Support the Asian community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Thanks for listening to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. Big thanks to Seb, our audio engineer, Meadow, our video producer, and Carl, our assistant producer, for keeping this bird flying. A special thank you to our program director, Adeline Fields, and our general manager, Dr. Martin. We appreciate everything you do. I'm Sam Romeo, signing off. Don't just get through the day, make it count, and keep shining. And don't forget to be